Kia ora tātou, welcome back. This is part 3 of my little mama series going on. I am recording this straight after the gym, by the way, because I'm just so motivated. So I'm like, let's record another podcast and get it out. So, okay. Today's episode has been activated because I was thinking about my dad a lot because he's passed away now. It's been 8 years, 8 years of missing him, and and it's triggered this conversation because I really wanted to talk about, and it'll all make sense and it'll all tie in soon. But I want to talk about how motherhood both saved me, but it like also has almost broken me so many other times, right? This is such a juxtaposed life being a mum, and just even in life, right? There's a duality of both fuck yeah moments and both fuck no moments, right? So I really wanted to dive into that conversation today. So, how motherhood saved me, but also broke me all at the same time. So, I have already spoken about how much being a mum definitely put my ass back onto a path of growing and healing, right? Before I became a mum, I was already in active addiction. I was already in domestic violent relationships. I was already dabbling in drugs. I was already dabbling in, I guess, illegal things, e.g., drugs, underage drinking, underage sex, hanging out with the wrong groups of people who were stealing, selling, all of those things. That was my life, okay, before I became a mum. And as soon as I had my eldest, my whole perspective changed. I knew I didn't want my son to be living that life. I was like, absolutely, fuck no, not happening. And it wasn't an overnight thing, right? It wasn't something where I just fully changed everything in one day. It took me years, right up until today, for these little 1% actions that I took in order to move us away from a life that I once lived. And it's crazy to like look back at things now and see how far we've actually come. Like to see how far we've come from me being a teen mom, living in the hood, drinking all the time, the neighbors with the black power. Like honestly, that was my life. So now we live in a beautiful home that was only but a dream, right? The home we live in currently is like a 4 bedroom, and my eldest now has a cabin outside, and there's a fireplace and a heat pump and beautiful landlords and a garage, and like there's even a deck. Like nothing but a dream when I was that 15-year-old girl having a baby, right? This was a dream. I am essentially living my dream from when I was a young girl because she got courageous as fuck and started changing things in her life in order to make this happen for us right now. Anyway, side note, that was a mini tangent like I prefaced to all of you. I could go on these, but motherhood gave me a purpose to be better and do better. And yeah, of course, I did that for my kids, but I actually also owed it to my younger self to show her how loved and how great and how amazing she was, even though she went through all that hardship and hurt and adversity at such a young age. But I'm going to speak into when the full weight of responsibility started hitting, and it was during my pregnancy, right? It was during my pregnancy. I already knew I was in a life that was so heavy and chaotic, albeit it was quite normal for me back then, but I already knew that. And just from what I've already spoken about already, I felt the heaviness. I felt the nudge that absolutely not, we're not raising kids in this life anymore. That is when full responsibility started slapping me in the face. And the decisions that I started making after that weren't easy either. And there were so many moments that were honestly so much for me to even bear, which is where my dad comes into play and why I got triggered. And trust me, there were other moments, but I'm going to speak into this right now. My dad got real sick when I was 22, 23. In the course of a year, he went from no cancer to full-blown stage 4 lung cancer. And we know that it took a year because my dad also had a heart attack when he was younger. So he had to get annual checkups. And I remember when that moment full slapped me, bro. I was so scared. I was so sad. And I was grieving him before he actually left us in the physical. Why this is important is my dad was my rock. My dad was my go-to person when I needed support in whatever way or form that is, whether that be helping with the kids, helping financially, just literally holding all my trauma dumps that I would dump on him. My dad was that person. And when I knew he was unwell and about to pass away, that was one of the heaviest moments of my life, to lose someone so close to me. Not only that, a year before that, my stepdad also passed away. And a year after that, my uncle Romain, who was one of my very close to my uncle Romain, one of my mum's brothers, also passed away. So in the space of 3 years, I lost 3 main pivotal male figures in my life. But my dad was that crucial part, because he was always my go-to person. And raising 2 kids on your own is not like an easy feat. Just raising children in general is not an easy feat. And then to know and grieve someone who was, still around at that time, because we knew it was going to happen. Dad didn't want to go through like chemo or any of that. He just wanted to live his life comfortably. So that happened too. But to be struck with that at so young, on top of, at the time, I was also studying and I was at placement and I was raising my babies and I had part-time mahi. So like all these other things were just also going on. So then being whacked with your dad's going to die soon, one of the hardest moments of my life. And if I'm quite honest, the way that I survived that, I luckily had the most beautiful placement when I was finishing up my 3rd year of my social work degree. I was doing research at the time, which again was kind of one of the spaces I didn't really want to go into, but it was kind of like the only place that was aligning. And then I ended up loving the placements because I got to meet so many different people. Back to it, they were super supportive of me. And even the university was too, the School of Social Work. They were like, Gail, you're allowed to pause your studies right now and you can come back to it. However, I kept going. I kept doing my research. I was allowed to do a lot of it around my kids, and so I could be with my dad, because dad was in the hospital for a little bit too, right up until he passed away. But I was able to do that. And it was a way for me to keep grounded and to stick the course, because I also knew my dad wouldn't want me to stop doing things based on his circumstances, which he's always been like that. But to be able to have the privilege to do that while sitting right next to him, it was a godsend. But when my papa passed away, when my dad did pass away, I spiraled. I spiraled down the rabbit hole, and I was blackout drunk for months. All I did was drink. Yes, also while finishing my placement and stuff. I was like a functioning alcoholic, and I had literally just moved into our second home. But I was so proud of that house, and I wanted to take him there just to show him, because we lived in a little flat before that. And don't get me wrong, it served its purpose, and we were there for like 4 or 5 years. However, we had outgrown it. And I finally found a new, beautiful second home. And all I wanted to do was take my dad there. But I didn't even get the opportunity to do that, because on the day, or actually maybe 3 days before I was moving into this new house, which also that was going on, 3 days before I moved into that new house, give or take, my dad passed away. So not only did my dad pass away, I was also moving house. I was raising these kids. I was in full blown addiction. And I was somehow, by a thread, still functioning. Some little thing in me was still functioning, still showing up in places that did serve, but was also in full blown addiction. And I say months, but actually, it was a good couple of years. Like a good couple of years of me just constantly drinking all the time. More so, I would say, than when I was younger. More frequently, I should say. Then I got happy with my baby, okay? My now 5-year-old at the time of this recording. And like he was like another blessing in disguise. And obviously I was like, oh my gosh, I'm still a single mum and I'm pregnant. But at that time I was then scared of, I guess, my image, because I was also a registered social worker and I was like, fuck, right? Fuck. Now I'm pregnant. I'm still a single mum. I am in this career as a social worker, and look at me, I don't even have my shit together. I was so scared at the age of 25 to tell people I was hapu again, because I felt like I just effed shit up all over again. I had this expectation that if I ever had another baby, like I'd be in a committed relationship and you know, and that didn't happen. Right? That didn't happen. And I remember being so scared to tell my workplace, to tell, I guess, social media land, to do any of these things. But I did. I told my workplace at the time, and my beautiful supervisor, Donna, sorry, I name dropped your girl. I told her. And my team there were so supportive, like so supportive. And I'm so grateful because they just held me. They held me in a time where I was already so vulnerable, because I was like, oh, I fucked up. Like there were stories that I was telling myself. But my baby, definitely such a blessing in disguise. I honestly reckon God was like, wabam, like sort your shit out, get back on track, girlfriend. And maybe I'm being a little bit dramatic because we don't need to have kids to do that at all, but that was my sign, right? That was my wake up call. That was my invitation to heal everything that I had been drowning with alcohol in the last couple of years. I could have easily stayed in those cycles. I could have easily stayed in full-blown addiction and doing stupid shit and not showing up authentically. I could have easily done that. Easily. I always used to think, and I used to always feel like I was living two whole different lives. One life over here in public where I'm like this mean ass social worker supporting so many different whānau. Like that was my image that I portrayed to the public. But then on the other side, I was actually this young wahine screaming on the inside in full-blown addiction, not knowing how to heal her hara and raising babies, right? I always felt that. I used to think this at that time. I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm two different people. When actually in reality, they were the same. I was always one person. But I used masks to feel like I had to prove to the outside world that I was good enough to be in the positions that I was doing already. I was good enough to be a mama. I was good enough to be a social worker. I was good enough to be this wahine in the public eye. And I wasn't allowing myself to be fully me because I was so scared to get judged for those realities of my life. I was so scared to be judged for that. I was scared of judgment. I was scared that if I didn't show that I had my shit together, that I would be crucified. And I was sometimes. That is why I had those masks on, because sometimes I was crucified for some of the things that I wanted to do or have done in the past, because it wasn't someone else's ideal or fit their narrative, right? So I was doing what I did to survive. Now, I have learned so much in terms of resilience as a young Māori Indigenous mama. I had learned so freaking much because of the challenges that I went through, right? Yeah, because of becoming a young mama, I had to sort my shit out real fast, and I learned how resourceful I can be, right? I learned just how resourceful I could be to make things work. I got sober a couple of times. I'm sober right now and in recovery, but I knew I could do those things. I knew I could get sober. I knew I could, but it took a whole lot of effing resilience for me to do that. Because, like I said earlier, it could have been easy for me to stay in that life. Very easy. And the thing that I didn't do much, though, was look after myself. Like, I did not do that at all. I always put myself last. Always. I would always make sure my babies had everything that they needed. I would always be going to help friends, going to help family, saying yes to everything else but myself. I was real shocking at self-care. Obviously, I was in full-blown addiction and doing everything for everyone else. And it wasn't until I got a bit older, maybe even just in like the past 3 years of my life, where I've started to learn, started to heal, started to learn and figure out that looking after myself is actually super important, especially while raising kids, right? I figured out real fast that when my cup is full, I am able to pour so much more back into my baby, so much more back into my community, my wider community, my family, my friends, my everything around me that I love doing. When my cup was full, I could show up like that, and I can hold so much more. Like, look, I'm literally recording this podcast right after the gym. It took time to go to the gym this morning. I actually walked to the gym and then I did my gym thing and then I walked home, but I prioritized that because I know how important it is now to look after myself, especially while raising kids. My patience is still quite hit and miss, but my capacity to hold all my babies has grown so much more, right? And self-care doesn't need to look like this bougie 45-minute walk and going to the gym for half an hour. Like, it doesn't, okay? Self-care can be real small things. Like, even just last night, I felt depleted. I just made me a cuppa and I sat there and I enjoyed my cuppa, right? Sometimes self-care is just stopping and breathing for 5 seconds, but intentionally breathing and coming back to the now. And because of everything that I learned as a young person, it has ultimately shaped me in how I show up today, right? A lot of times when shit hits the fan or when life throws lemons at me, I can move through it now with ease, not all the time, depends, might be a new level and I'm learning something different. But because I have managed to move through so much shit and learn how to feel again, by the way, when shit hits the fan or life is throwing lemons at me or my babies, I am now able to navigate that with so much more clarity. Now, don't get me wrong, I still get overwhelmed on the best of days. But then I've learned to self-care, look after myself, get back to the present, and navigate through these things in so many different ways that I might not have been able to if I didn't go through these things, right? I look at the experiences I go through now with such a different perspective, especially as a young mum. A lot of the life that I had to navigate back then when it came to being a young mum, finding a rental, finishing school, going to uni, getting my first job, like all these milestones alongside being a mum has made me who I am today, has helped me learn how to trust myself and make decisions knowing that on the other side, we're going to be okay. Because sometimes some of the decisions that I made didn't even make sense in my mind, but I could feel it, right? You know that pucker feeling that you get? When you're like, it feels right, but logically, this ain't making sense. Sometimes my logic did take over and I learned things the hard way. And then I'd be like, oh my God, I should have just listened to myself. Have you ever had that feeling when you're like, I should have just listened to myself? This logical brain, though, is doing what it does best and it's like wants to keep us safe. But I've learned to start trusting my puku, start trusting my intuition, my inner knowing, whatever you call it. I started learning how to just listen to her, especially when it came to motherhood. Right? We hear all the shoulds, like you should do this as a mom, you shouldn't do this as a mom. You need to be doing this so that you're seen as a good mom. But like, I'm also here to like stamp on that as well, because our perspectives of what a great parent looks like is so freaking different. And in motherhood, there is going to be struggles. Like there just fucking is. All of our babies are so different. All our kids, they want different things. They value different things that might even go against what we believe in. But there is always going to be struggle city in mum life. But with struggle city has to come growth. That's the duality of it. Because trust me when I tell you right now, I am in my season of learning some more patience. I am in that season, especially with teenagers. They have their own worldview now and their own perspective of things. But yeah, patience is definitely the season that I'm in. It's been a bit of a messy year trying to find that balance or that rhythm or that flow with my teenagers. But we're getting there. And the rhythm and the flow is always going to change. It's always going to be messy. And I'm just a huge believer in messy action and messy growth, though. Because when we do things, and even if we like fuck shit up or whatever, it's just showing us like, okay, we're not going to do it that way next time. Let's try this. Yeah. And that's the duality of motherhood. That's actually just the duality of life in general. But I think I'm going to wrap that kōrero up right now before I jump into my next coaching call. But if you are a mum, and again, even if you're not a mum listening to this, life is messy. Okay. It just is. We are going to have struggles in our life, okay? And especially in our motherhood. There is always going to be struggles. But with struggles also comes growth and wins. And if you're in a season of just feeling like you're barely fucking surviving, please know you're not alone. I still fall into those seasons. When we are in these seasons of it feeling hard, it feeling like a challenge, like adversity has hit, shit has hit the fan, where we're in these seasons, I believe it's a invitation from the universe to see what we're going to do and see how we might navigate these things. I know that in the moment it's really hard, okay? When we're in the moment and we're in the feels, please feel them. Please don't feel like you have to have your shit together. If you're sad, be sad. If you're angry, be angry. If you're grieving, grieve. And then pause. And then be like, okay, so how can I now move from this to get to where we need to be or where we would like to be right now? I am all for feeling all the struggles, feeling all the feels that come up. I didn't do that for years. I numbed it with addiction and just carried on. So on the inside, I was actually just dying. I was crying out for help, but I didn't know how to feel things. So please allow yourself to feel these feelings. They're a human experience. And then when you're done with the feeling, move into the, okay, now what can I do next to move the needle? What can I do next for motherhood? What can I do next for myself and my own growth? What can I do next for the kids, right? There's just heaps of things. And it's not about doing it all at once, by the way. It's about doing one thing at a time, one small step, right? These small micro actions have macro results. So be easy on yourself. Be kind to yourself. Hold compassion for yourself and grace, because there's duality in motherhood. There's duality in life. All right. I can ramble on with these conversations all the time. And if you're one of my clients, you're probably laughing because y'all know when we're up in our coaching programs. But yeah, I'm gonna leave it there, and I hope that this conversation again has sparked something in you and has added some value. If you have anything that you might want me to touch on in more depth, like please let me know too. Like wherever you're watching, drop a comment or flick me an email. I'm pretty sure my email is available. And if not, find me on socials and send me a message. And if you think anyone else needs to hear this conversation, this kōrero today, please feel free to share it to them too. Like I said, I just want to get the word out. I want people to know that they're not alone. I want people to know that it's okay to be human. And I want people to know that even when we're having all these struggles and it's hard, that there is a light at the ends of the tunnel. There is growth and there is healing to come with all of that. But yeah, I'm gonna park it there now, and I will have this next conversation with y'all all really soon. All right, ka kite.